Okay guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we are doing a Pottery Barn inspired double Chaise lounger outdoor for the pool. So if we have two single loungers we already built, we're doing a double lounger now as well. So we already cut all of the wood. So we had a cut list, and you can see this doesn't look like much right now, but right now it is all of our cut pieces of lumber that will, at the end of the day, will configure us a two-seater lounge chair. So it's Pottery Barn inspired. We have a Pottery Barn cushion for it. We just need to really get the lounger created for us. So that's what we're doing today. We're using the same cedar wood that we got from Home Depot. This wood was about $250 for all the wood for building this double Chaise. So that's really what the cost was, and we'll put the plans below, and so you guys can see all the cuts that we had and how we did it. Okay, so the materials that we are using today. First off, you need to pick your wood. So we use cedar. You can use pressure treated lumber, you can use teak wood, you can use redwood, anything that's really outdoors you can use for this project. We use cedar. The other thing that we needed, of course, was a chop saw. So we cut everything with a chop saw. You don't need anything else besides that for a saw. So we need that. We also used, obviously, a measuring tape. We used a square to make sure we got good square cuts even though we're using a chop saw. We are using, which is basically a pocket hole jig kit. So we're using that to connect our frame together. Craig hole screws that are 1 1/4 inch. So we got those as well. We use wood glue on all of our seams. Gives us a little bit more strength to it. So we use wood glue. We also need 1 1/4 inch screws. We use these quite a bit, connecting different pieces together underneath, putting in our stops for our top, or raising up and lowering our lounger. And then for our feet, we use some 2 1/2 inch screws. So we use those. And then we use it, we're using a nailer as well. So when we use a nailer, we're using a Porter cable nailer. So we used 1 1/2 inch nails for that. So we use that. And because we use a nailer, we covered up the nails with plastic wood. So wood filler, basically, something that's sandable, stainable. We use this, it's Home Depot brand, basically. And then we also used Orbit sander. So we got some fine grit sandpaper, Orbit sandpaper. We used 120 grit for that. And then we, of course, used a drill, putting together everything that we needed to with that. And then we're using an Olympic Elite stain, woodland oil stain, and mahogany. So that's everything. And of course a brush on the stain, that sort of thing. But that's it. That's all the materials we're needing for today. Okay, first we're building the outside frame. Okay, now we're doing the inside frame for this. So this is really what the bottom, your seat of your lounger is going to be. So we're framing this out. We always pre-drill our holes because we don't want to split the wood. And sometimes you're at the corner of these pieces of wood where you're putting them in. So we're going to pre-drill, and then we'll put the screws in. Okay, so one modification that we made was we didn't want to use the Craig drill for all the boards going in between here, the slats for the bottom piece. So we wanted to use our nail gun. It's really quick, it's really easy. So all we had to do really is add an extra support in here. So you see how this has kind of got one support here. We'd like to actually, 2 things for this. One is it gives it more stability, and 2 is it allows us to use our nail gun here and be a little bit quicker about putting together these chairs. So that's what we're doing right there. We're going to split it so it's half this board's going to have lay on it, and then the boards that go across will also be able to be tacked into that. So that's the most important thing. Okay, so in doing the slats, they say to put 1/4 in between here. And we basically just eyeballed it. I mean, we got as close as we could. We spaced them out. We did a little measuring, but at the end of the day, we wanted it to look better than to be exactly right on the measurement. So we did that, and when we put these in, we did the outside 2 pieces first to make sure we got our spacing right on the side. So it's going to have a little bit of spacing on the side. It's not super tight up against the end of it, which is what the measurements were. I mean, I think if I would do this again, I might go all the way to the end and just make these boards just a tad bit longer to push it out. But we got our spacing right on each side, and then we did the 2 side pieces first, and then we did the 2 end pieces. And now we'll start slapping them in there. We glued the middle pieces, so we're ready to really kind of roll. Okay, one quick tip. Last time we used a little longer nails with our nailer, and when you're doing this, we were doing this, and we had to flip it over, glue it, and nail it. We nailed it into our concrete floor, so we put a couple little divots in the floor for that. So we put some boards under it that we don't care about. We did our gluing, we measured everything out, and now we're using a little bit shorter nails, and we're going to throw those suckers through there real quick and double up a nail, and we should be good. Okay, so we're attaching the back support, which is basically going to help the back rest of it be up and down in different positions. So we got good rust-proof or rust-resistant galvanized hinges for this. So the utility hinges, we got two for the top things, then we got two to connect at the base of this thing as well. So that's really what we're working on right now, and once we get that done, then we should be able to kind of put this all in place, and we'll be in a good shape. So we're installing the backrest stops right now. So we went and pre-drilled them all, so we put holes in all of them to pre-drill them. And then we're using 1 1/4 inch exterior decking screws really to put them in, and then we're gluing the back of them. So giving them some extra support, and we're gonna glue the back of them and go through each one of them. And then these are, it goes 2 2.5 inch, and then another 2.5 inch, and then it does a 4.5. And then under that, it has this 14. This is where it actually, the pieces, when they come down, will rest in between here, and it actually stops and sits on this piece that sits below it. Okay, for the legs, I used a treated 2x4, super cheap, $4, 6 foot length, super cheap. You can cut them down. So I measured these 9 inches off the ground, and here's the reason why. This isn't part of how they did it, but this just works really well for me. So I measured 9 inches and a 2x4 length. And then if you look to the inside, it rests right up against here, and it fits right into the corner, and it makes just a complete corner, so it makes it so it sits really nice and tight in there. So I'm going to put a couple screws in the outside. I'll patch them all up and sink them in so you don't even hardly see that they're there. Put them through the outside, and then when I'm done with all of this, I'm going to take some of my spare pieces and I'm going to wrap this so it looks like one's kind of squared off leg there. And I'll wrap the inside, so when it stains all really nice as well. Okay, so as we started sitting everything in place, we realized a couple of things. One, it doesn't tell you how many hinges to use. So I bought 2 hinges for this, and I honestly think that's way under building this. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a hinge here on this corner, which is gonna give a lot of stability. We're gonna put a hinge on that corner, and then we're gonna put 4 hinges. We'll put 2 more equally spaced in the middle. But we don't want to hinge on this board because there's really not that much to this board. So we're going to run another piece underneath this board under here just to give it some more strength. We'll probably run another piece right there, right? And then we'll nail that in or screw that in really tight to that board so it gives a lot of strength to that board, and hopefully that'll help with the hinging of that from the middle side of it. So the other thing that we have here is we have a spacing issue that I'm not super excited about. So that's there's kind of whatever. But there you go. So you can see this space here. Well, that doesn't look good. So we need to somehow cinch up that spacing. So I think the biggest thing we can do with this, just to cinch it up, is if we ran a board that looked like it was supposed to be there, that would basically run.
We couldn't have that space anyway because of the hinge. You wouldn't be able to attach it.
So you're going to have spacing either in between here, which we can't, right, because of that. But we're going to have to run a board, and we're going to run a board right here that is going to go all the way across. So it'll kind of look like it mimics the other side here. Like it'll look like this right here, right? So we're going to run that all the way across. It'll give us some more stability too. We can actually do a couple screws or tap some nails through here. We'll run this board all the way across, and we'll attach the hinges to this. So it'll give us a little bit more strength there, as well as it will cover our gap. Then, because we cinch that gap up, it gives us this resting really tight up against this corner. So like that, because it looks really nice and clean. So when you actually open it up and close it, it looks like it's end to end, like you have a full chair. So those are some things that failed on our directions. Those are things that we're going to have to make some adjustments to and fix. And once we do that, we should be good. So we're probably maybe 2 more boards into it. And then the last thing we have to do, and we knew this going into it, we just forgot to get the boards, is we don't want this piece dragging on the bottom. So you can see this is hinged. This is really what this is it's the support piece that once your thing is hinged in the middle, this will rest here. And in theory, if I can get my grip right, it'll rest there. And that'll actually be how our chair is hinged in the middle. So now that you'll see it like that was actually hinged in the middle, you'll see that that's going to be your backrest and your backrest stoppers. So that's really how it'll look from the back once it's done. But we're going to put a cross piece in here so this piece doesn't ever go all the way to the ground. So if you're looking at it from the front, the sides, or whatever, you're never going to see anything dragging on the ground. So that's it. So we'll do a cross piece here and here. Measure that right. We'll do a cross piece there to get it in there. We'll add one extra hinge, and we'll call it a day.
So that's probably 2 or 3 extra boards, 1x2s?
At least 1, 2, at least 2. At least 2. Okay, quick update. So we're in the process of staining right now, but what I did do is I went back and I got 4 hinges. So I did 2 on the outside, 2 on the inside to give it extra support. I put in this extra support board right here as well to give it a little bit more oomph to make sure that when you open and close it, it doesn't break. Also put in an extra support here too, just because we're hinging there. So I wanted to make sure that I gave it a little bit more rigidity for that to happen. And then I put in these cross pieces. So again, so this piece right here doesn't flip and hit the ground. So it keeps it up and underneath it and gives it kind of a guide rail. And the guide rail slides it till it hits the stop. So I did that as well. So I also went back through and all the little nail holes that we had in the top, you know, because we did that modification of using the nail gun to put in the slats on the top. I went back through and just used some wood putty. I wood puttied those holes, and then I used my Orbit sander again with a 220 grit sandpaper on it just to give it a smooth finish and to take as much off as I could of the wood putty, because otherwise the wood putty doesn't quite stain the same as the wood does. So you want to make sure to use as little as possible if that can be possible for it. So okay, so we have this all finished up. It's all stained. It's completed, everything is done on it, and I think it turned out really well. So we made a few modifications, like I said, to the plan, because the plan does really well on telling you kind of about the slats and getting the frame put together and that sort of thing. It doesn't tell you stuff about hinges, how to really, some of the oddities of the back that you don't want the piece dragging on the ground for. It flips up for the backrest. So obviously the back itself lays completely down. So as you can see, we made modifications to this as well. So we put a couple of heavy-duty stainless steel hinges on this as well, but this is really what your backrest uses. So it has multiple stops to it. So the stops allow you to sit as upright as you want to with it. So it sits in there like this. If I get it right, there we go. So it sits in there like that. You can go all the way back. You can keep going back on it, and then it gives you one more option to go back further, and then you can lay completely flat. So all we gotta do now is bring it to the patio and put the cushion on it and go from there. Okay, so here's the finished product out at the pool. So we got a blue cushion just to give it a little bit more color out here, and so we got that. One thing to note is that we got these cushions at the Pottery Barn outlet, and this one isn't quite as big lengthwise as our other two. So it's a little bit short up on top, so we might get something else, pillows or something else to go with it, or just get a bigger cushion at some point. But other than that, this is what the finished product looks like. So subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, let us know if you've done a project like this in the past before, and tell us what you think of the one we did and any modifications you might have made. Thanks.